Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is going to put voting rights legislation up for a vote. But it seems that the effort will be DOA on the Hill. What's the road ahead in the states, and how can outliers in the House and Senate be held accountable? Joining me to talk strategy and accountability is Arisha Hatch, Vice President and Chief of Campaigns at Color of Change. Arisha, welcome to Amplified. Now, we have been talking quite a bit about the racist roots of the filibuster and the way that segregationists have leveraged it to block civil rights. Bring us to the present and give us your take on how the filibuster is still a tool of racial suppression.
Right. And so we've seen from its inception what the filibuster was really about. First was an attempt to formalize slavery in Oregon, and has been used across the decades for a number of nefarious purposes, whether it's pushing back on voting freedom, whether it's immigration reform. We've seen the filibuster used in ways that continue the legacy of Jim Crow, but also prevent us in this highly polarized, non-bipartisan era from making any progress on the issues that matter most to Black people or to the American people, really.
So I, start this off by saying it's nice that Majority Leader Schumer is bringing this up for a vote, because people need to be on the record. We need to hear the foolish debates that don't make any sense that we're all prepared for, of why people can't support it. We need to hear that senators on both sides of the aisle are prioritizing process over progress and people, because really that's what this is going to come down to. But the truth is that all eyes are on Manchin and Sinema, who continue to double down on the fact that ain't nobody swaying them, right? I know that they're talking to the president right now as we have this conversation. They're over at the White House. But they haven't been swayed on getting rid of the filibuster and moving forward on Build Back Better. They're not here for voting rights. And frankly, I don't know what they stand for, but it certainly is inequality and justice for all. So a couple of things. One, why do these two white senators, frankly, from states that, aren't necessarily connected to a whole lot of Black people, seem to have so much power right now over Black lives? And is there anything that we can do to actually hold them accountable to us?
It's so unfortunate, because I didn't have the opportunity to vote for President Sinema or President Manchin, as many Black voters didn't get the chance to do that. And it is deeply frustrating that they are allowed to hold our government hostage in this way. I went out and voted, and I know a lot of other Black voters that we talked to went out and voted to see a number of things. We wanted to see a competent response to the pandemic. We wanted to see student loan forgiveness. We wanted to see a host of things. We wanted to see police reform. And yet these two Democratic and name only sort of senators get to hold things up. And I'm hard on them because I feel like they should share our values. I feel like we should be able to move them in some way. But you can't forget that there are a ton of Republicans also obstructing any progress at all. And I think it's deeply sad to see that our democracy is in this state, that we can't create any momentum unless we write bills in Republican terms. And it's just deeply unfortunate. And I think the situation that Black people and other people of color, other marginalized people are forced into is a situation where we have to overcome so many barriers, whether it's redlining or redistricting or a host of things that are related to voter freedom, in order to get an even more dominant majority to move the issues that we really care about.
First of all, I want to lift up the phrase you just used, voter freedom. I love it. And I think that we all need to actually be moving that message that this is really what all of this is about. It's about voter freedom. At the end of the day, though, the Senate is the Senate, right? You've run some pretty successful campaigns over at Color of Change. So please tell us, what is the strategy here? by all accounts, the Dems don't seem to have the juice to actually change the filibuster rules and move forward on voting rights, at least not today. So what can be done outside of this Senate process that's taking up, all the oxygen in the room to try and get some progress and move the needle?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I want Democrats to actually take bold steps to not only end the filibuster with respect to voter freedom and voting rights, but also with respect to a host of other issues that will have, if passed, will have real material impacts on the lives of Black people and so many other people. But beyond that, my expectation is that everything that is legally possible to be done, whether it's an executive order, whether it's all these new rules that we're all learning about together in terms of process between the Senate and the House, I expect everything within our power to be done in order to deliver on the promises of this Biden administration, as well as the promises and expectations of what it means to have a majority in Congress.
So I got to ask you about this. President Biden and Vice President Harris gave big speeches this week on voting rights from the heart of a historically Black college center that seemed to preach to the choir. I'm curious, how did the speeches resonate with your members at Color of Change?
We're still talking to our members about the speeches. I think for Black people, we're accustomed to this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday rush to talk about Black people. It happens every year, like clockwork. And I think that what not just Black people, but I think most Americans, or certainly most progressives, are thinking about are, why can't we keep the same energy towards the progressive ideals and packages that we know will make our communities healthier and safer? Why won't we go out on a limb to make sure that people aren't so consumed with student loan debt that they can't afford to leave a job to start their own business or buy a home or have a child? Why aren't we so concerned with immigration policy that affects so many people of color within this country that we won't be willing to push the line on the filibuster or on the rules, the arcane rules of the Senate? And so I think while it's incredibly important for our elected leaders to take this stance, we want them to be full-throated in their responses, but we want to see a strategic plan that can actually be executed. And we want to see not just, we want to see our elected officials not just focused on how it can be, they can make it easier for us to vote. We want them to actually focus on passing policies that will improve our lives.
And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because Black voters are the backbone of the Democratic Party. We elected Joe Biden. He knows it. We know it. He had a mandate, and we've given the party the majority in Congress. So what else is it going to take for them to actually fulfill their promise to us?
Yeah, I think this is the hard pill that I'm trying to personally swallow as someone that has gone out and tried to convince people why it's so important to participate in elections and vote for people that share our values. The hard pill that I'm swallowing is that we still have so much work to do. My hope is not so frustrated the way that DC works, polarization in our country, that is holding us hostage and not allowing us to make progress on our issues. I think the thing that I am trying to focus on, that many other organizers focus on, are a deeper vision for real power, a real majority. Unfortunately, this current majority that we have is not powerful enough to achieve the changes that we actually want to see. And so it's going to require a lot of discipline, I think, for us not to throw the baby out with the bathwater in this next election cycle, because we are closer than we've ever been, but not close enough to the to the power that we need to make the changes that we want to see.
The work continues to get to that deeper majority. Arisha Hatch, Vice President and Chief of Campaigns for Color of Change, thank you so much for sharing all your insights with us. Appreciate having you.